Right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Strap yourselves in for this one. We are getting a serial killer letter read out for us today from Shawn Warner is going to read it out, but this is from Hadden Clark, the serial killer. I'm going to bring on Shawn Warner in a minute. But strap in for this one. This is the one that I have been looking for. I'm going to bring Shawn on now. Just give me a second. Shawn, how you doing, sir? Oh, I've got him muted. I had you muted there. Sorry about that. My fault.
That's okay. I'm used to being muted around here. My wife does it to me all the time.
Oh, here I can relate. I can relate on that. Don't worry, mate. So, how's things with yourself?
Pretty good. Can't complain except it's too hot. I mean, it's supposed to be October, but we're going to be 80 degrees all next week. So,
Wow, is
I'm
amazing.
always complaining about the weather around here, but nobody believes in climate change or global warming. It's supposed to be 80 degrees in October, according to, you
Yeah.
know.
Listen, we're going to stay away from that topic because I'm getting hit hard on YouTube at the minute. I'm speaking about all that stuff, the climate change cartel, the flu, the magic juice, and they have just went, you know what, Ronan, we're just gonna castrate this channel, and they did. But listen, I'm not here for the money. I'm here for the good stories. That's why I have people like yourself on, interest in people that's going to stimulate the conversation. But first off, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Melissa, I have to put Melissa on the screen here. She says, housework done, tea done, and on the door. So there you go. This lady's always tuning in. She loves your stuff, Shawn. She loves my stuff too. So thank you very much, Melissa. I had to give you a good shout out there. Obviously, Hope Springs, the lady herself. It's always good to see you in. And Stevie Boy, my mod. It's good to see Stevie Boy. He's the best mod in the business. Me and Stevie can disagree about a lot of stuff, but he is a very good mod. Who have we got? We've got Irish in, Fighting Irish. Brilliant, excellent, good to see you in, sir. And Joanne, we've got Joanne too. Joanne's in. I hope you're well. And look who it is, the man himself, Solway. He's basically a part of the furniture. I'm not going to lie to you. See this guy here, Shawn. This guy here, Solway. He could walk through my door, put his feet up on the sofa, crack open a beer, and I wouldn't even say a thing about it. That's how much Solway's respected by myself. TMC Music, haven't seen you in ages, sir. It's very, very good to see you in. I'm just going to go through the chat here, Shawn, because there's a few regulars. There's Mr. England. Good to see you. I do have to give, and Matthew, I do have to give a disclaimer. Anything that's spoke about on this podcast today is for educational purposes only. We do not condone the actions of any serial killers. We don't promote their actions. We think it's absolutely disgusting that they do these things. We wish these people didn't exist. But there is an interest around this. Why do they do what they do? Why do they kill so many people? Why are they in society? How do they operate? That's what Shawn has basically devoted his life to. And with his experiences and his knowledge, he has collected an abundance of information in regards to these serial killers. And it's a wealth of knowledge, and his experience is absolutely fantastic. So on his sake, make sure you share this, share a copy, link the clipboard, make a little social media post, send to a friend on Facebook or WhatsApp Messenger so everybody gets to see this. The more eyeballs, the better. But I think that's us. We could have a guest tonight, Shawn. We could be Holly Provenzel could be joining us. People would have known Holly from last year. So you have given me a list of pictures, Shawn, and I've got them here. Now. What way do you want to start this off?
However, I grabbed sort of an archive of Haddens letters and another binder of other serial killers, BTK, Sam Little, Gary Ridgway. There's a bunch of other ones in there. David Berkowitz, Todd Colehep. But I sensed that there was more interest in Hadden, so I kind of focused on his letters, and I'm not gonna, read the ones that are just, hey, how are you doing? There's a lot of that. I mean, he's a he's basically at this point he's a friend, so he's someone who we talk about normal things, but there I have quite a few where he gets into some crazy stuff. I'd never point blank ask him about the murders, just because I already know that stuff. We have talked about it on the telephone, but I mean, there's no point in having him write a journal to me that's basically a confession to everything that he did. I don't want that. I want to talk to him about the underlying reasons of what makes him who he is, and through doing that, we ended up becoming friends for over 5 years. And I know other people write to him and they joke him and they get artwork from him, and then they put it on these serial killer collecting sites and sell it. And I mean, he will send you some weird stuff. He's
just tell the audience, though, it's not, the thing about it is, because a lot of comments came through, how could you be friends with a serial killer? How could you're not actually meeting this guy first and foremost. Like you're not meeting up with this guy. You're talking to him via phone. You're writing to him via letters. It's not like you're welcoming him into the home around children. You wouldn't have that. It's basically you're pen pals with this guy. You're fascinated to why he done what he done. You're not glorifying anything that he done.
No.
Yeah. So just so the audience knows, because me and you speak backstage, and you're like, of course I don't condone any of these things. It's literally there. The options there to speak to them. Why not? And you know what? The job that you've done is years of work that the police wish that they could do, because they don't trust the police. But actually, you never asked him once about his crimes, and he basically has opened up to you, because
and that's my point. If you build up a rapport, I'm not going to come at him or any of these guys like an interrogator, because I'm not really. I don't want to have them recount the crimes, because I'm not a thrill seeker who wants to. Well, David Berkowitz told me about shooting something. First of all, he won't talk about his crimes, and a lot of these guys won't, because even though they're convicted and they're serving life sentences, some of them, I don't think any of them really maintain any sort of innocence or hope of ever getting out. Although Hadden is the one who does actually keep hope alive, so to speak. He believes that there are these various avenues left open to him to pursue his freedom. And I don't try to crush his dreams, but I also don't say, when you get out, we'll have a couple drinks, and
well, essentially you don't want them to get out because of the heinous crimes committed. They should be locked up behind bars for the rest of their lives, because
maybe
they're going to commit the crime again. Once you do that, that's it's going to be in you. It's in you to do those evil things. I mean, they should never. Anybody that's like a serial killer, mass shooter, anybody that's done those things, I don't think you can reform that. It's like a sex offender. Like we spoke about that before. In my opinion, those unless there is some type of psychology trick, but then to the victims' families, to the ripple effect that have, I think it's only fair that either I know I says it was against death row, but if you've got 100% proof that somebody's a serial killer and you know that they're a serial killer, I think it's only fair that there's justice served. Do you want to go through the list of serial killers that you, before we do this, you want to go through the list of serial killers that you actually speak to, so the audience knows?
Yeah, I can do that. Hadden Clark and Todd Colehep are the two that are probably, the most prolific writers. I mean, Hadden is, well, since we started speaking on the phone, I don't, there's no sense to write as much. But, David Berkowitz, I get a letter probably every 2 months. BTK, I have an ongoing correspondence with Dennis. Gosh, who else?
There's so many of them, Shawn. That's the thing.
Sam Little was a great pen pal to have. He was a very interesting guy. He passed away. Gary Ridgway, Kenneth Bianchi, who is half of the Hillside Stranglers, along with his cousin, who's no longer with us. Keith Jasperson, the happy face killer, smiley face killer, as he's known. Other guys that I've written to once and didn't see that there was going to be any, like they were just like, oh, can you send me a money order or this or that? And then I just, I don't send any money or anything like that. I mean, for Hadden, I do certain things, but he collects autographs, so I'll get him something like that. But outright money, I'm not gonna send.
Have you ever been approached by the police to give information on any of these guys?
No. Most of the guys that, I mean, I'm not talking to Rex Uerman or Brian Kohlberger, somebody who the police have interest in convicting right now. The guys that I talk to, they're long time into their sentences, and besides BTK, I don't think any of them have any anything that they want to, that they're keeping under their kind of hidden away. I think BTK definitely has some other victims out there that are unaccounted for, but he's not going to talk to me about that. He's a game player, so he's going to drop little hints, here and there, and eventually, when he's ready, he'll come forth and say, this is where the person is. Right now, he's being looked at for a couple bodies that there's some legitimate concern that he is the killer of at least two more.
And obviously it goes without saying, if you came across any information about new bodies, if information passed your way about a victim that was never found, you probably would pass that on to the correct people, so then that body would be recovered and give back to their loved ones. I mean, to start this off though, right? Can you see the right? I don't know if you can see the right hand side here. I've got all the pictures that you've sent me of your murderabilia, of the letters. Can you see the right hand side there? Can you see them pictures? No.
I can't.
All right. Okay. So the the first, I think we'll. Would you want to read one out now? Then do you want to read a part out now? And I can put this on the screen if you want. If there's a letter here, I've got letters you've sent me.
Okay.
Do you want me to put one on the screen?
Well, what I thought I could read some of the older, just a couple
Have I got them? Have I got
excerpts.
them here?
Not all of these. I mean, it's
All right, okay.
this. I don't know if you can see, but this is just one binder of I think I sent you the pictures. He always sends like signed pictures of himself. Like,
take one of them out and if you want to. Can you take one of them out and show the audience the signed picture? So this is a signed picture.
This is a photograph that he sent me, and it's signed on the back here. Let's see.
Yeah, you can see that Hadden Clark.
And this is his campsite in Bethesda, Maryland. This is actually where he lived before he was arrested. This is the campsite that he was living at when he committed two of the two most notorious of his possibly as many as 11 murders. This is something that is kind of weird. It's his foot, his feet prints in watercolor paint, along with a trading card that someone was making. And he signed one and sent it to me.
That's man. There's a vibe comes off that one. Like I'm not going to lie to you. It's like animalistic. It's like the mud, the feet on the paper.
The one that I sent you of his handprints. That was one of the earliest ones he sent me.
Let me see if I can get that one up.
And that one's kind of creepy because these are the hands of a serial killer. So that one's actually hanging on my wall in a frame.
So that's the one there that he just showed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one there that he just showed. And
these trading cards, someone was trying to do a whole set of serial killer trading cards, and so what they did was they were trying to send a stack of them to Haddon to have him sign, so they could use them to kind of boost sales, to say you could possibly get a signed one and a pack or something like that. Sort of like, I don't collect like trading cards, but I know like people who collect sports cards, they try to get things signed. So I guess having one signed by a serial killer is the equivalent in the murderabilia world, or true crime collecting is basically what it is.
Well, that's essentially what you have there is one of the rarest cards in the world, regardless of the guy's crimes. Regardless, I know it's a serial killer we're talking about here, but in the world of memorabilia in general, that there is a very rare card. I don't think you sent me the one with the handprints.
I thought I sent that. That was the
I'll go through them here, right? So there's that one.
I sent you a couple like at the end.
There we go. There.
Yeah, there they are. And the picture under it is an AP wire press picture that the newspapers used to use back in the 70s of Kenneth Bianchi at one of his court appearances. And that's an actual wire photo that was used by the newspapers. So that's one of my like rare pieces. And Kenneth Bianchi is someone that I find extremely interesting because he tried to put on this multiple personality defense, and it's so hilarious to see him use these different voices and these different actually try to be these different characters it's so insane, and it just shows you like how deluded that he was, and how schizophrenia, how it can affect a person and make the most outlandish ideas seem feasible. Like, I'm gonna, yeah, no, and he did it right after he watched uh, a movie about a woman with multiple personality disorders. So the doctor was like, well, that's kind of odd that you just watched this movie. And so his story, I'm not saying it's like comedy funny, but
I get what you're saying. It's ironic that, look, I've watched this movie and I'm gonna present this as my case of insanity. I've got
yeah,
multiple personality disorder. Look, I'm John next minute, and I'm this crazy guy the next minute. It's
well,
like,
they're all crazy.
yeah. Well, they are crazy. That's the thing. Define crazy, because people say, okay, well, they're in the right mind to do this, but obviously there's something there. Even if they can have a coherent conversation, it doesn't make a difference. Most
here's a prime example. This is the actual what they call mugshot photo of Edmund Kemper.
Wow.
Who they called the co-ed killer, or but this man has a genius level IQ. And so
can you put Ed right up to the camera there? Is that the original?
Yeah, this is made from the original negative. The original.
Look at those eyes! Look at those eyes. Imagine, like, he caved his mother's skull in with a sledgehammer or something, didn't he?
His mother. Well, he didn't cave her. He cut her head off,
wow.
and then he threw darts at it. And not only that, but he invited his mother's best friend over, and when she arrived, he killed her. So he was, and he's like 6'8", almost 7 feet tall. He's a huge guy, Jesus. and he was what they called a police freak. He used to hang around, the same taverns and pubs that the local police hung out in. And so he would hear them talking about his murders, and he'd be like, if you only knew. And this is the opposite end of the spectrum. This is the fingerprint card of Ed Gein, who was actually Psycho was based on him. Hannibal, The Silence of the Lambs to a degree, not Hannibal Lecter, but Buffalo Bill. With the skinning of the people and wearing the human skin. So he's pretty deep in horror and just in the public zeitgeist, for better or worse. He's part of American history. The Psycho of Plainsfield. He's probably one of the least prolific. He had a pretty low body count, but he's probably one of the most well-known serial killers of American history. And now this guy, this handsome young devil right here is Lawrence Bittaker, known as one of the toolbox killers. And his murders, along with his partner, were so heinous that I would just say look them up, because they were they're brutal, and they were all perpetrated against women. So
like, for you to tell me that, Shawn, because me and you've had some conversations about this that we couldn't even speak about on air, for you to say to me that's heinous, it must have been bad.
Again, it's been documented in these B-grade horror films. There's now there's also a toy box killer, and he actually died before he served any of his sentences, but he had this trailer that was just outfitted with torture devices, and he had this indoctrination tape that he would play for these women to listen to, and I've listened to it, and it's very unsettling the way he just kind of drones on in a monotone about what's going to happen, how you're going to be treated, what's expected of you. If you're going to survive, this is what you have to do.
Have you got that audio?
I have a digital copy of it. I could send it to you, but to pull it up right now would be...
It's not on your phone or anything. You can just put it up to the mic.
No.
All right. Okay. Well, the next time we'll do that, because that'll be.
Yeah, I have a couple things like that are, kind of questionable. I mean, you're allowed to own it, but some people would say I was a ghoul for having it, just like the Luca Magnotta, video of him slicing, dicing, and devouring a victim.
You've actually seen that?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
It was up for a while because people thought it was special effects, because he posted it to an amateur horror film, a place where people show off their special effects skills. So people were watching it like, wow, this guy is really good. This looks so real, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not going to put this guy out there. He's actually family, but I showed him the video and he had to leave the table to vomit.
Do you know what? Do you know what? Right? Like, see, back in the day, I was into all that. Like, as a kid, when the internet first hit, we were like all into all this mad stuff. People getting hit by trains and shit. Like,
you mean like Rottencom and stuff?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Do you remember Rottencom back in the day?
Yeah, of course. I used to go on there and watch all the beheadings and all the people jumping off buildings, and unfortunately, what that does is it desensitizes us. I mean, just today I was on my morning walk, and I almost got hit by a car. It didn't even faze me. I was just like, I just kept walking. Like, it kind of takes your perception of life and death and turns it on itself. You realize that anything can happen in any given second. So it either makes you value life more, or it makes you just think, I'm fighting a losing battle. There's no way I can defend myself against all of the potentialities, whether it be, being hit by a car, or being, the victim of a serial killer or a mass shooter, or, just anything.
You Americans have to put up with some stuff. Just on the side note, like you can walk. I don't know about your state, but in some states you can walk into a Walmart, which is our version of an Asda, and buy like an AR-15 fully loaded, come out with your shopping and just gun everybody down. Like, for me personally, that's like, man, it's like the threat to life. You're selling projectiles that shoot another. You're selling an object that shoots a projectile that goes faster than the speed of sound multiple times, maybe 100 rounds or 1,000 rounds per minute. It's like that is the maddest. That's the maddest thing I've ever heard. But listen, I get it. I understand. That's your rights, and you don't want them infringed upon. But I'm not personally a gun nut. I don't. I think people should be able to protect themselves and their loved ones and their property. But, like Rex Heuermann was in possession of 279 firearms. That's ridiculous. And most of them were legal and registered. So, some people just take that right to keep and bear arms, and that becomes their mantra, and that's so ingrained in
the John Wayne American. It's all bullshit, if you ask me. I mean, we shouldn't need guns. It should be a world where people respect one another. But unfortunately, there are those who manipulate people and create killers out of people who would normally not even think about it, because they're either desensitized through, brainwashed through the right wing in America, organizations that point out our differences instead of our similarities, and just divisive propaganda that create people like Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, and the next thing you know, someone's shooting up a high school or an elementary school. We had an elementary school shot up. So these people,
that's primary school, isn't it? That's for children, like just they're
yeah,
not in high school
yeah,
yet.
right,
Man,
right. They're
that takes another level of sick bastard to do that. Like, okay, fair enough. Maybe you're in high school, your hormones are about, you've been rejected by 16 girls, you've been embarrassed, bullied. I can maybe understand then going into your dad's gun locker, grabbing that gun, and just
sure.
having a schizo. But to
Believe
go
me,
into an elementary school and do that to children, that is next level evil shit.
Yeah, and I'm talking as somebody who was bullied in high school. I didn't fit in. I didn't listen to the music that people listened to. I didn't like the movies people liked. I didn't look the way everybody else looked. It's I'm walking in wearing Doc Martens and depending on the day, maybe even a skirt, but
you're a punk rock, or you come from the punk rock sort of generation, don't you?
Right. So, not the school that I went to, that they just didn't get it.
Can I ask you a question? How do you, and this is, I want to get on to the letters now, but I've got one question for you. How do you feel about your era, the punk rock era, being hijacked by a bunch of tyrannical whack jobs, turning punk rock into something that it's not? Something, because punk rock, okay, there was always a political aspect to punk rock, but it was for people that were different, that could go to a place. They didn't want to change the world. They just wanted a place where they could go and nobody else was going, and they could be weird and funky, the hairdos, the fucking, the really, really cool, the crazy music.
I don't know if you can see this wall sort of over here, but it's covered with pictures of the Ramones, the Dead Boys, the New York Dolls. The whole era was, I missed it by a few years, but I did get to see the Ramones a bunch of times. Of course, I never got to see the Sex Pistols, and when they did the reunion, unfortunately, I was in prison, so I didn't get to see that. But the punk era was the greatest era in music as far as I'm concerned, and both the American side and the European side, or basically the British side, with the Clash and the Sex Pistols, a lot of people think that's where punk started, but it actually started with the Ramones. And without the Ramones and without the Stooges, Iggy Pop's first band, there wouldn't have ever been punk, because even Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols says, he wouldn't even have started playing guitar if it wasn't for Johnny Thunders of the New York Dolls. And that goes for me. I would have never started playing guitar if it wasn't for Johnny Thunders. So, and that kind of led me into listening to, some heavy metal, but not a lot. I love Iron Maiden, Merciful Fate, some bands like that. But mainly, I stayed listening to punk. And nowadays, the only band that I think is worth listening to is Ghost, obviously. To me, they embody everything, that all the theatricality and everything, minus the politics. but all the theatricality of the New York Dolls and the early David Bowie and Alice Cooper. So that's the kind of music I mean, I don't know how we got on that topic, but
no, that's no, it's good to listen. It's good to listen to that. I think we got on the topic. I asked the question, like punk rock.
Oh yeah, getting hijacked. Yeah,
hijacked, but it's been hijacked by the crazies, and there's nothing you can do because I suppose at the end of the day, if there was something that was going to be hijacked, they would hijack that because punk rock was always different, and
right. Well,
that crowd, the far left, say, well, we're different, so we're all about punk rock. But punk rock isn't. If you actually look at punk rock, there was a lot of like, especially in England, there would have been neo-Nazis that listened to punk rock. So it's a music for all. It's a music
they
for
took
all.
Ska. They took ska and introduced it into punk, and the Clash is big for doing that. And the Clash is probably the least fascist band you could ever imagine. I mean, Joe Strummer to me is like a prophet of peace. To me, he's like an English Bob Marley. The Clash kind of set themselves apart from the punk scene and took it to a bigger stage. The Sex Pistols, they didn't get the chance to do that because they were managed by a manipulative, self-serving narcissist in Malcolm McLaren, who only wanted more and more and more chaos. And in my opinion, he killed Sid Vicious just for publicity. He booked all the American dates for their tour in places where he knew they would be met with a violent pushback, Texas. He didn't book them in New York where they would have been treated as conquering heroes. He booked them in, like I said, Texas and all through the Bible Belt where people were like, punk rock is
just another form of a sociopath, isn't it? What's a serial killer? A person who goes out and kills people, lots of people, yes, but also a serial sociopath who's somebody who's going to put somebody in harm's way just for their own monetary benefit. That's a terrible person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Not every psychopath is a serial killer. Like we talked about, lots of people suffer from psychopathy.
Yeah.
It just presents itself in different ways. Some of the ways in America are seen as quite positive. If you want to be a CEO and you don't mind stepping on everybody to get there.
Well, like the Sackler family are a bunch of serial killers. If anybody's watched the Netflix documentary, they're the people who created OxyContin. They sold legal heroin. They killed over 500,000 people. That is the biggest serial killing family in the history of the world. And they're not even in prison because they were billionaires. All they've done was liquidate the company and got a slap on the wrist. They killed 500,000 people. Go watch the Netflix documentary.
There's still just in the news today. There's in New York City, there's an opiate crisis going on right now. It's not going away because, it started with the OxyContin and now it's gone to fentanyl that, is being laced into every other street drug. My best friend died last year because he bought some, what he thought was just some weed. And it ended up being laced with fentanyl, and he died.
Man, Jesus, that's terrible. You go out to get a bag of smoke, and next minute you're ODing on fentanyl. Yeah. See that stuff there. I couldn't believe. I know we're getting off topic here, but for people to understand the fentanyl crisis, because fentanyl, I haven't. Maybe it is here. Maybe it is here. I live quite rural. I go into the city now and again, and you do see the the heroin addicts. You see the people that are on crack. You see all that, but. Generally speaking, I don't know. I don't know if fentanyl's here yet. It could be, but they put it.
I'm sure it is.
A box room in England and Ireland, right? Your box. Anybody listening to this here, your bog standard box room filled with fentanyl does the entirety of the United States. That's how strong it is. So a box room filled of fentanyl laced with all the heroin in America and all the other drugs in America will do the whole of the United States, every state, because you just need, it's a microscopic dose of this, and if you have any more, you will overdose. That's how strong fentanyl is.
Yeah.
And the cartels, I heard a story about the cartels have called a crisis in South America, not the south of North America, but actually South America, Mexico, and all those countries. And they've even called a crisis, saying they need to bring in regulations for the cocaine that they're making, because
that's crazy.
Yeah, they're going to be regulating the amount of fentanyl that goes into these drugs, and they're going to be making pure forms of cocaine and fentanyl-laced cocaine for the people who want that. But it all has to be weighed out properly, because they even realize we're killing our customers.
Right,
here.
They're killing. What business besides tobacco kills its own customer base?
Yeah.
I mean, not even gun companies are, intentionally killing their customers, but, when you're introducing a substance that's 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine into drugs that people aren't even expecting any opiate to be in, that's like putting a razor blade in an apple when, that's just insanity.
Man, see if my son ever got addicted to something, or he got addicted and it was like it wasn't his own fault, in the sense that maybe if it was put upon him by some dirty drug dealer that just wanted to get him addicted, I think then I would turn into a serial killer of drug dealers.
Well, you're telling my story. That happened to me. That's how I lost my son.
Yeah, and sorry, I actually, I know you've got a very heart-wrenching story in regards to your son. If people want to go and check out Shawn's story, I'll leave the link in the description and comment section. Go check it out. I've done a podcast with Shawn last year. Fascinating story, Shawn's life story, prison, from losing his son. And do you know, man, even just saying that, I felt the pain. I felt your pain when you said that. And it's like, when it comes to our children, we don't know, man, it rips your soul out. That's all I can say. It rips your soul, it rips your heart out. Like, you just,
it never goes away. At first, not to get on another additional topic, but, you get sick of people saying, oh, time heals this, and it doesn't. It doesn't. Not when it comes to a loss of that magnitude. It goes beyond. I mean, I've lost so many friends, relatives, my best friend, and it doesn't compare. It just doesn't. It's its own kind of pain that hopefully, very few people will have to go through. But I can tell you, it changes your everyday life. It's like a part of you is gone, that you can feel the missing part every day. And, it's no fun.
I couldn't only imagine, Shawn. And you know what? I don't want to seem selfish. I don't want to imagine. I don't, and I have to be honest.
I wouldn't want you to.
I don't even want to imagine, because I feel like imploding, not exploding. I feel like imploding is the only word I can describe to you. Just on a brighter note, have you quantum leaped to a 16th century fortress? Because I can hear like sirens in the background of people playing trumpets.
Yeah, that's somebody trying to tell me something important, I'm sure.
Well, listen, you know what we'll do?
Or my wife might be releasing the hounds.
Yeah, oh, here, man, listen, I know how you feel. So listen, what we're going to do is, do you want to read out a part of the letter now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one of Haddens' earlier letters, but Well, first, here's these are more recent ones. He like I said, he collects autographs, so he's always asking me for, if I know about this person or that person. But he says, this is dated 22nd August of this year. Thank you for the 3 8x10s of Reagan Reward, which is an actress I was not familiar with at all. But it turns out that she is this young girl from this TV show called Young Sheldon. But anyway, he says, I once babysat for, she reminds me of a girl I once babysat for. I took this girl fishing. I knew her mother from church, who was a widow and was now going on dates with other men. Reagan Reward is a spitting image of this girl. That's why I like Reagan Reward. Now, I'm not an idiot. I know what his victims look like, and I know one of them resembled this girl. And if I had known that ahead of time, I wouldn't have sent them. But, after the fact, what could I do about it?
Do you think then with that, do you think that you were manipulated into sending that?
A little bit. I mean, a little bit, yeah. But I didn't get mad at him because, he's 72 years old. I mean, it could be worse. I'm sure he has access to crime scene photos because he was convicted. He had during discovery, get the copies of the crime scene photos. So, he has access to whatever he needs to, fulfill that fantasy life. So I could be, completely wrong. He could just be a fan of this particular actress because he has asked me for like Demi Moore's autograph. But he's very specific about what he wants. He wants her in the costume she wore in A Few Good Men because he was in the Navy. And, unfortunately, I think when we talked about his Hadden's story, his mother used to make him wear girls' clothes. So even when he was in the Navy, he would get a hold of female officers' uniforms and wear them. And, he was, of course, discharged for mental health reasons. But
he used to wear, his mom used to make him dress in girls' clothes. And do you think that contributed to his white mind growing up then?
Yes, definitely. He didn't have it easy growing up, I can tell you. And he comes from an affluent family. Everybody in his family is very intelligent. Unfortunately, his brother is also a murderer, but he killed one person, but it was so brutal that, he dismembered her. And I think that kind of probably also fed into Haddens. That's why you see a person is more than the sum of their parts. This guy went through hell, and so all he knew was hell. So what did he do? He brought other people to hell. And that's sad and unfortunate. But, what can we do? Can we be a nation crying out for revenge and more blood? Or can we put these people in psychiatric facilities where we can learn and look at these families that may not be in the the inner city or places where you would expect to see dysfunction. If a child is being mistreated, this is kind of jumping ahead about what we wanted to talk about next time, but in America, there are these two Mormon women who present themselves as, you know, uh, parental advisors, and they're now in jail for 6 felony counts of child abuse because one of their kids, a 12-year-old, escaped and he was duct taped. And it was obvious that he was abused. People need to listen to these kids, before they end up, shooting up their school, or maybe later in life, running up a body count in the double digits because their parents, beat the hell out of them every day, or, verbally abused them like John Wayne Gacy's father did to him, and these parents that are unaccepting of, children that aren't on the football team or aren't, macho guys, or maybe their interests aren't, fishing and hunting. And so their fathers treat them as, disappointments. And that scars a child, and in my case, abandonment, that's one of the worst, I mean, fortunately, my grandparents gave me a great childhood, but still learning of the abandonment, it fucks me up.
Yeah. You could just imagine what that's like. Abandonment, right? Maybe your mother is, she's got a history with men. You're probably on the spectrum. You're being physically or sexually abused. And even then, you won't become a serial killer. But then it just takes that added interest in, maybe you're not interested in football, maybe you're interested in the murder scene, or the occult, the weird and wacky, and then it just goes into maybe doing silly little things, and then maybe sexual frustration coming into puberty, and you have all these issues, and then boom, we all know, right? And I have to say this, right? Whenever a young man becomes sexually active, I remember this myself, right? There's a moment where you're not even thinking about them things. And then literally to the day, like I think I was like 9 or something, I just started noticing breasts everywhere. Like, wow, this world is fucking mad.
Right.
I used to like, I remember like my uncle's girlfriends used to come in, and I was like, whoa, this is mad shit. I'm starting to get the hormones are pumping.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself,
for me, it was Elvira.
Yeah, everybody has their little moments, but I could only imagine. I had a good childhood, but I could only imagine having all the, maybe if you're sexually abused or physically abused, you're on the spectrum. You've got maybe that personality type with that strain, that murder strain through you anyway. Maybe you're lacking empathy, and then the only way you can get your kicks. Maybe some people's fetishes is an ass. Some people's fetishes are tits. Some people's fetishes are pretty faces. Some people's fetishes are big women. Some people's fetishes are killing people.
But see, that's not a fetish. That's when it becomes a paraphilia.
Paraphilia, then.
Yeah. Once a fetish in and of itself is not a bad thing. People like feet. Some people, like you just said, all that whole list of things, those are fetishes. Some people like to be tied up. Some people like to be, choked to a degree, not, strangled to the point of asphyxia. But, some people like it a little rough. When you start mixing these physical elements, you also start mixing emotions. A violent response normally is supposed to ignite that fight or flight response. If it starts kicking into arousal, you have to be careful that it doesn't go to a paraphilia where, you're on your wedding night and you're just not feeling it. And
that's
then
what I'm trying to
the next
say,
thing
Shawn.
you do is wrap your hands around your wife's neck and start squeezing or start punching her in her face, and she's wondering what's going on, and you're like, well, that's me. That's what I need to do, you know? So
But that's what I'm
it's a
trying to say to
slippery
you.
slope. It's a
That
slip, you know?
that's what I'm trying to say. Round about that time, I think it's crucial for young men to have guidance, because if you don't have guidance, if you're in an evil environment while you're going through sexual maturity, there's a good chance that you're going to be sexually evil.
Right.
Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree.
You
Yes,
get what I'm
yes.
saying?
Hmm.
Um,
Completely.
do you want to read out another part of the
Yeah.
letters, or is that just
No, no, no. I have, believe me, I have plenty. But that was just something I wanted to point out,
yeah, yeah.
that he does have these interests, you know, and I wanted to say that people might wonder, how the hell do you do a life sentence, or in his case 60 years? You know, how do you even approach that? And I just want to point out that, you know, this is the mindset of what it takes to, for one man to make it through a 60-year sentence. And you know, it's not all about what I wanted to do was compare Haddon's life to another serial killer who approaches it the exact opposite way, which is Todd Colehab. Now, Haddon's in prison in Maryland. Todd's in South Carolina. So Haddon goes on to say, if I get to go to the library this week, I'll be able to Xerox my main copy of some sign language artwork. Now, that's something that he does. I think I may have sent you some examples of his artwork.
Yeah, yeah, I'll get them up now for you. You just have to just have to guide me through, because
Okay.
they're very small. I don't have them on my drive. I've just got them. I've actually just uploaded them straight to StreamYard. So if I'll put some on the screen.
Okay.
You tell me.
Well, that one, that's not from Haddon. That's from Sam Little.
Okay, no, we'll do that a different time. Just give me a wee second.
Those are from BTK. Haddon's artwork is very rudimentary and childlike. Yes, there you go. That is actually a band-aid that he had on his arm when he got his COVID vaccine, and he sent me that signed with a little character that I guess he created, but he always sends me these characters doing sign language for different words, and that word was, I guess, Band-Aid or COVID.
Man,
And
the way he's betrayed that little girl is creepy.
yes, because that is a very childlike drawing of his 6-year-old victim.
Man, what? And he sent that to you?
Yeah, he said, I'm telling you, I have, if I hung up every piece of art he sent me, I could cover these walls easily.
Oh my God. Are you
And
serious?
yeah, yeah. He sends me birthday drawings on my birthday. He sends my wife Valentine's Day drawings. He sends us Easter drawings. He sends us Christmas drawings. He sends Halloween. He doesn't miss a holiday. He's like Hallmark, a serial killer Hallmark cards, and then and in between, any holiday or birthday or anything like that, he'll send me. He sent me a bunch of ghost drawings from the, he knows. I love the band Ghost, of course. He's never heard of them, but so I had this ghost coloring book, and I sent him some copied pages, and he colored them in and sent them to me. And he
Man,
also drew other serial killers and sent me pictures of other serial killers. Like that's something he sent me. If you can read it, it's a pretty it's a
any fool can count the seeds in an apple, but only God can count the apple in a seed.
yeah. So you
Man,
see,
what? That's some cryptic message that he sent. That's like a location. If you decipher that, that's like a location for like four other bodies or something here. Like
no,
that.
but
That
you see, those are actual apple seeds taped to the paper. And
what?
yeah, see under the drawing of the branch, those two little brown things are apple seeds.
I can confirm that just below the middle apple, that dark spot is like, if you want to take a screenshot of that for yourselves, you can literally see there's apple seeds. So it's like, I don't like, I'm in the moment here, so I don't want to talk shit. But
Mhm.
there's I've got so many things swirling through my head. Man, that is mind blowing. This guy is cryptic. He is cryptic. Like there's things going through swirling through this guy's head.
And that's his version of the Frankenstein monster, because obviously he knows, I love horror. And that was Halloween, like 3 or 4 years ago. He sent me a whole set of horror characters. um, that was his version of the Frankenstein monster.
He made him look good looking.
I
I'm not
guess
like, he's not a bad looking Frankenstein.
one monster to another. He doesn't want to make him, and that's Leatherface. You know,
He drew Leatherface.
yeah, yeah, that's Leatherface. I
He looks
believe it.
like Chucky all grown up.
Well, yeah, he did Chucky too. So yeah, I have Chucky. Um, Freddy Krueger, I think, is in there. All of the big horror icons he covered. I think
Wow.
the only one he didn't do was Jigsaw, or the puppet Billy from the Saw movies. Um, but there's Michael Myers, of course.
He does like a handsome face on these. He's like he's trying to beautify these horror victims.
The monsters, yes, yeah, you're right. You're right. He does. He gives them like almost a feminine kind of like look at the lips. He accentuates the features to the point where everybody knows that Michael Myers is in the world of horror fiction, probably the worst serial killer ever, and his first victim was his own sister, so again we go back to killing a young girl, and that is something that I think Hadden just can't get away from. He can't, because he's not getting any treatment. He's in a cage, and he's given whatever medication the government, the state will afford, which I know how it works in there. So Hadden is in protective custody. He doesn't mix with regular inmates. His life has been threatened numerous times in numerous different facilities. He's been moved around. I'm not trying to.
How has he survived? Why has nobody like shanked him or like?
They've tried. They've tried. He's a pretty he's a pretty in shape old dude. He does not look 72 years old. And he works out all day. All he does is push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, any calisthenic,
Is he by himself doing that, or is he around
yes,
other prisoners?
no, he's by himself. He's by himself. He's in protective custody because of the attempts on his life. And now let me just say that I don't know how many people are quite familiar with Jeffrey Dahmer's story, but Jeffrey Dahmer was murdered in prison. And I, along with many other people, believe that it was set up by the correctional guards. Correctional. They don't correct anybody. They're guards. Their job is to count inmates. That's it. And
that was definitely set up. I've seen it. That was 100% set up. Yeah, of
yeah.
course it was. Yeah.
And Hadden, he's been moved around a lot because he committed crimes in other states, and New England, and he was taken to Mexico. There's his Freddy Krueger, of course. It'd be hard to recognize him without the red and green stripes on the sweater.
Very, very feminine. It's like this guy's projecting. Even though it's actually it's still a gross looking picture, but
right.
This guy is projecting femininity onto monsters. Do you think to break this guy down with his young victims, did he target them through just extreme rage because maybe he himself had a gender issue?
I think there's some of that. I think his second and probably most well-known murder was of his employer's daughter. She was college aged at the time, actually in Harvard, and she was returning home for holidays. And Hadden didn't want the competition. He liked being a surrogate daughter to this woman. And when her real daughter showed up, it didn't bode well. And so Hadden, took matters into his own hands and, showed up in her bedroom one evening and said, you have to leave,
Wow.
and she was like, what are you talking about? And, of course, there's his drawing of the Moors murders, and look,
bro, did he really draw that?
Yes, it's signed by him.
Oh my God, he's got her jaw. He's got her jaw. Look at her jaw. Look at her jaw. He's got the jaw on point.
He has Ian Brady looking better than Myra Hindley.
This geezer has drew this. Oh my God, that's like sailing off. And what the first impression I get of that is like sailing off into the sunset, into this that could be a child's book.
Like the happy ending, There's the road,
Wow. And he sent you this?
Yes. I have nothing. I'm completely open,
Wow. That is freaky. A lot of people here in Ireland and the UK obviously would know about this. Like these are considered,
they're the worst people in like you said, in Ireland and England. These are the pinnacle of evil. There's very little redeeming qualities to Ian Brady. You can say what you will about he's a human being, he had but he was a monster. He was an absolute monster. And
well, the occult was in there too, Shawn. Like if you look into the story, there was
he was big into Nazism, and everyone knows that the Nazis used the occult in almost everything they did. Hitler would consult with I guess what you would call a seer, or someone who was practiced in the occult. And surprisingly, it was a Jewish guy that he was mainly seeing that would give him these insights. And, of course, he's using them for evil ends, but, he's very in touch with, Samhain and the festivals of different festivals of the moon, and
paganism. It's that's I've done a story on it years ago. The Samhain, that is how you come with that's how Halloween was created. with the mixing of the two cultures. It was the Roman culture and the Irish pagan culture. It mixed together, and then well, there was already a Halloween type thing, but it was more of the god of the harvest. And I forget. I think it was a feminine. But then there's other stories about that too. About there's another sort of story about Ireland. You come that time around about 3 o'clock in the morning. It is
that's the witching hour.
Well, the world between
that's when the veil is the thinnest between.
Well, if you go to this, there's a stone circle here which is thousands of years old, and if you go to that, it's pagans use this place, and there's all these like rituals as you walk down. But if you go there at 3 o'clock in the morning on Halloween, not 3 o'clock in the morning on Halloween, not that day. That day. So people mix it up sometimes to go the day after. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Halloween morning. Right.
Yes.
And it is just packed full of these pagans, just basically naked, having an orgy with fires on magic mushrooms, just going into the next dimension. And it literally is going into the next dimension because they think that the thin veil between this world and the other realm is so thin, and it's specifically. It ignites at 3 o'clock in the morning. And listen, I don't know, man. I went down once, and it was some weird shit. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, but I don't know if that was just the shrooms.
Well, tons, almost, I would say 90% of what we traditionally think of as Halloween started in Ireland. The dressing up, was to be able to blend in with the spirits, so you wouldn't be readily recognized as one of the living, and trick-or-treating wasn't always about getting candy. They would give out food or these things called soul cakes, so the history of Halloween, it
used to be turnips. It used to be turnips, and then the sort of
turnips, and was the original pumpkin, and then the pumpkin became, they'd carve the faces in a turnip, and then that carried over to more modern times, into what we call the jack-o'-lantern, or the carved pumpkin. Again, I don't know how we got on this time.
No, but it's what it is. We're going into the weird and wacky. You see? So just to go back to this one, actually, we're deciphering this here. We got into the occult. We talked about the occultism, and the Moors murders. These people were into the occult 100%. He was sort of He sort of had sympathies for the Nazis. They were connected to the occult. Yeah. But that is a very strange picture for Hadden to draw, the serial killer to draw, because what he's doing there is he's glorifying them in a book. He's made them look better.
It does look like a children's storybook to me. Now, when you brought that up, I can't see anything else now. With the sort of like filigree border around their faces, it just kind of looks. It looks very loving, it looks...
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. He's trying to present them as these loving people when actually they're rotting from the core. They're very evil people. And he's trying to it's like he's trying to represent serial killers and actually paint them in a better light. Look, we're not bad people. We just kill people, but we're not bad people. And here, look, I'll even show you. I'll show you some pictures where they look like lovely people. He makes women look more masculine.
Yes,
and he makes men look more feminine.
Yes.
So he's got gender issues, definitely.
He does. Oh, yes, I can attest to that. But he there's some of the letters that he has written me, where he goes into the dressing in women's clothes, and it's not from childhood, it's from his adulthood. This was something that carried over, and this is obviously a self-portrait. The picture I have is covering up the top portion, but that's his version of himself.
Man, that's now he hasn't made himself look fine
No,
in there. He's made
no.
himself look like evil.
Yeah, and like a mountain man, like with he doesn't he only keeps the beard in the winter,
That
because
that looks like it's looking at me
yeah, it has that weird, like I keep that one in the book. I don't keep that one
in a
out where.
safe, maybe with with a crucifix on top of it, wrapped in a Divic box. Probably, I would say that is creepy because he's projecting there. What he's doing is he's drew that and he's like, I can see you, Shawn. I
Yeah,
can see you.
you know what is funny that you said a Divic box, because I keep all of this stuff in this box that has a witch carved in the front. It's a Norwegian box that my wife and I found online from this. We drove to DC to get it. It's so creepy, and I had to look it up because I'd never seen anything like it.
Have you got it?
Yeah, yeah, I still have it.
Have you got a Divic box on you right now?
Let me see if I can turn. It's pretty
Guys,
big.
guys,
So let me see if I
guys,
can.
if people don't know what a Divic box is, let me just take this picture away for 2 seconds. I have to explain this, right? If anybody's ever seen the movie Divic, it's a Jewish, the Jews would put spirits, demons into objects and put them inside this Divic box. And there was that famous story where they buried the Divic box and it was surrounded by snakes. And that, I don't know if that's a true story, but apparently it is true. So
let me try to get over here where you can see it.
I've never seen a Divic box up close before. This is some freaky shit, guys. How do you live in this house, Shawn? Like, you've got a very lovely home, don't get me wrong, but that, oh my God. Oh, was there any objects inside of this? Oh my God. That is freaky, man. Look at that there. Wow. But that is a demon. Oh my God. That would have been used to house demons in the Jewish culture. Wow. Tell me, Shawn, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
So that's it.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can hear you. I can hear you okay. But you can't hear me. Did you mute yourself? Mute. There's a mute.
Hello?
The demons got him, guys. The demons coming after him. That was a Divic
Can't
box.
hear you.
Showed us. Plug it in. Is it plugged in? Hello? 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 You've muted your you've can you hear me? he's gone. He can't hear me. Settings, mute. Go to your settings. You might have muted yourself by mistake. Down below.
Testing the speakers on StreamYard. Sounds like
Down below. You're bound to be able to hear me, man. I haven't muted myself. I'm live here. Hello? No. No. Right. Listen, what we'll do is we'll wrap it up there. I'll go to the chat here. I just I don't think Sean's going to be able to work out this issue, but I know I can. I know. So what we'll do is we'll wrap it up here. That's an hour and a half. Anyway,
That's
so
crazy. I can't hear anything you're saying.
That's yeah. I'm gonna have to say that to him. But listen, that's an hour and a half anyway, guys. Listen, thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, share, like, subscribe. If you're watching in Rumble, give this a rumble. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to comment in the comment section afterwards. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share, do all those things. Sean will be on next Thursday talking about a subject, maybe doing more of this because he's got lots of different letters from lots of different serial killers. So make sure you tune in next Thursday. And yeah, spread the word, guys. I think these are fun to do. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in.